Good morning, Parkway. It's Friday, May 1st. What that means is it's May Day. When I was a little girl, May Day was a day that you would go and you would pick some flowers from your yard and you would wrap them up with a paper towel, and then you would take those flowers over and you would put them on the front porch of a friend or of a neighbor and just give them a May Day greeting. So maybe you'll take the time today to give someone a May Day greeting. I hope so. And by the way, we'd like for you to give us a May Day greeting. Would you take just a moment to put your name in the comments or give us a like? Because that's the way that we track who is joining us for these Friday devotionals. And it really does help us to know who is here. So thanks for doing that. I've spent a lot of time this week thinking about the Bible story that we did in our chapel this week. When we teach a Bible story to our youngest children, we have to break a lot of the big words and concepts down into simpler words that their younger minds can grasp. And that's what we had to do this week with our story of Thomas. He was the disciple who couldn't believe that the other disciples had seen the risen Christ. He said he had to see it with his own eyes in order to believe it. Jesus honored his request, and in our simplified version, Jesus told Thomas not to doubt, but to believe and to have faith. I'm going to show you that in our Bible story. So how does a child learn to have faith? Well, I maintain that they learn it best by seeing it modeled, by their parents if possible. This is Paul speaking to Timothy, his young pastor protege. He says, "I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you." Like Timothy, I can trace my faith heritage to my grandmother first and then to my father. They didn't preach or use big words. They simply showed me by their own example that we were a family that put our faith in God and Jesus and that we live within the context of a faith community. My dad took me to church every Sunday, not because he had to, but because we could go. And even though I had my years of young adult rebellion, like countless others, when we became parents, I felt the urgency to give my children the same gift that my father had given to me. We planted our family in our local church in Missouri when Caitlin was a baby, and we found Parkway soon after we moved to Texas. So today, even though both of my young adults have now wandered away just like I did, I believe with all of my heart the day will come when they will feel the same pull to return to their roots just like I did. Parents who are modeling your faith, keep it up. You may think that they are not watching, but they are. They see when you opt to sign them on for chapel or for Bible study. They see whether you join them. They notice when you choose to gather the whole family in front of the TV or computer to attend the online worship service. And by the way, what a wonderful opportunity this whole stay-at-home mode has given us. In all my years of ministry to children, I've always had to fight against a myriad of alternative ways the children could spend their Sunday mornings. There were soccer games, sleepovers, overnights with the cousins or their grandparents or friends, Texans or Astros games, Cardinal games for me, weekend campouts. The list is endless. And suddenly, for 6 weeks straight, and several more to come, there have been zero competing interests. Kids can even come to church in their jammies, and they can eat their breakfast while they worship. And even better, if families do happen to have some fun Sunday morning alternative to do right now, they can still sit down later in the day and queue up the worship service. Or they can follow the chapel lesson that we post. Or they can catch Cokesbury's midweek pause that we've been sending out on Facebook. It doesn't matter so much what you do, parents, as long as you are doing something with your children to let them see that worship and time with God is a priority in your household. But what about those of us who are not parents? Who are we influencing and modeling our faith? Paul also had this to say to Timothy: "Continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from whom you have learned it, and how from infancy you have known the Holy Scriptures." We all have people in our lives who know us, who trust us, and respect us. We don't need to preach to them. We don't need to throw our Bibles at them. By our actions, by our choices, we model what we believe and what is important to us. Paul encourages Timothy to pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not quarrel. Instead, he must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. And here's the best part. Those who oppose him he must gently instruct, in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading to knowledge of the truth. I hope you find it freeing today to know that we don't really have to concern ourselves with the believing part for other people. God's got that. It's enough to manage ourselves in a way that models what we believe. In a lot of ways, it seems like our society has been on a giant pause button. But as we begin the tasks of emerging from the stay-at-home mode, let's try to make sure that when we hit the play button, we are continuing to model what we believe. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And by the way, the entire book of 2 Timothy, which is where all my scriptures were from today, is filled with encouragement for faith-filled living. It only takes about 15 minutes to read, so I invite you to spend some time with the young Pastor Timothy before we meet again. See you next week.